Welcome to the CEO Project Podcast, where Jim Schlexer, author of the best-selling book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, and the founder of the CEO Project, provides ideas and tools to help CEOs of mid to large-sized companies grow and optimize their businesses. Now, let's get started with the show. Hey, welcome everybody to the CEO Project Podcast. I am Jim Schlexer. I am your host. Well, today I've got the CEO of a multi-generational business, and I got to tell you, Maine seems to create these multi-generational businesses like very few states. Derek Volk is the owner of Volk Packaging, a third-generation family-owned and operated corrugated box manufacturer in Biddeford, Maine, and Volk packs it a contract packaging fulfillment center in Sanford, Maine. He just released his second book, Go for Third, a leadership's lessons from the softball field to the workplace. He's been working at Volk Packaging since he was in high school. This is what happens in family businesses. Slave labor until you get out of college, maybe, right? And has been running the company for over 20 years. Derek is a Maine businessman, best-selling author, former radio personality, and nationally recognized speaker. He graduated from University of Maine, Orono, and a degree in communication. He's had a popular Saturday morning radio talk show in Portland. And interesting enough, the box business is a key economic indicator in any market. And so Derek gets called by all kinds of financial organizations, Wall Street Journal and so forth, like what's going on with the economy? Because if we're using boxes, the economy's good. And when we're not, we're not. So Derek, thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Has the snow melted in Maine yet?
Yes, and then it has been raining nonstop for about a month. So slowly getting my ark built, and
there you go.
There was a meme going around a couple of years ago that said, "I love summer in Maine." Last year it was on a Wednesday.
Exactly. Yeah, the one I heard is we've got two seasons. We've got winter and 4th of July.
Yes. 4th of July is not always so warm either.
All right. Well, geez, I mean, I guess you got born into this business, but tell me how it started. I guess it would have been your grandfather or grandmother that started the business?
Yep. Yeah, my grandfather. So my grandfather actually started, oh, sorry about that. My grandfather actually started in the box business back in the 30s. He was selling fine paper, letterhead, stationery, invoices to GE in Lynn, Massachusetts.
Lynn, City of Sin.
Yeah, which was a huge plant down there. And sorry, my phone keeps ringing, and I gotta turn that off somewhere. Try that. And so they came to him one day and said, "Hey, why don't you sell us corrugated?" And he said, "Well, I don't know anything about corrugated." And they said, "Well, find out about it and manage our inventory, and we'll pay you an additional 15%. Wow. It was about $500,000 account in the 30s.
Woof. So, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, that's a company maker right there.
Yeah. So he started doing that. He was an independent broker for the next 30 years. And my father joined him after graduating from University of Pennsylvania. And one day, I don't actually know what happened, because I interviewed my father and my grandfather, and they both gave each other credit for coming up with the idea to start their own plant.
That's good. Okay.
So, and neither one would back down.
Yeah.
So I don't know whose idea it was, and I'll never know.
Yeah.
But they decided that it was time to build their own plant, control their own destiny. Looked around in Massachusetts, couldn't find any place. Maine had just built this industrial park. And so we were the first ones here. We've been here ever since.
Wow. That's super cool.
1967.
I had some exposure to the corrugated box business in my first job. I was involved in the flexographic printing business.
There you go.
So rubber plates and the whole deal, which is what's used in corrugated, because they don't want to crush the flutes to compare the strength of the box. So yeah, I know just a teeny weeny little bit about your business.
Just enough to be dangerous.
Just enough, but probably still couldn't be a sales guy for you. So what, I guess let's ask the question, what is going on with the economy based on your, pretty interesting view of it from the point of view of packaging and corrugated materials?
Yeah, we're pretty steady. Things are going well here. Labor is a challenge, finding enough people.
Yeah,
that's been a challenge since even before COVID, but it's definitely been worse the last couple of years. Just finding people that are willing to get into manufacturing. Period. They all want to be TikTok stars.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so getting people to come in and put in it's hard work. It's not easy work working in a box plant. So finding labor is hard, but I keep telling everybody, look, if we have two choices, not enough people and lots of orders, or lots of people and not enough orders,
Yeah.
I definitely like this option better.
Yeah.
So business is good from what I'm hearing. The Midwest is slow. There's a lot of businesses in the Midwest, box businesses that are struggling. From what I hear, I'm in a CEO group with box owners from around the country, and they seem to be struggling right now. But the South is still booming, and the Northeast still seems to be doing pretty well.
Interesting. So, boxes are pretty standard. I mean, almost by definition, corrugated is standard, right? So how do you differentiate in that market? Because they probably any given person in New England probably has 10 choices of where
Yeah,
they could get their materials from. Why do people pick Volk? What's the secret sauce you have?
yeah, they sure do. There's lots of options. There's lots of good companies, and
Yeah.
most of them are a lot bigger than we are. We're
Hmm.
competing against billion-dollar companies, Fortune
Wow.
100 companies, so they can outspend us.
Yeah.
And it's a very expensive business to just keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Uh, and what separates us, the biggest things that we focus on is we genuinely care about our customers, right from myself right down through the company. If you're working at a Fortune 100 company and you screw up an order, you're running a flexographic printer and you screw
Yep.
up an order, it's not going to make any difference in their financial statement at all.
All right. Right.
Whereas at Volk Packaging, my employees realize that every order matters, every customer matters, and it they're what they're doing today impacts whether we're going to get future orders, and ultimately impacts their career and their job and their profit sharing, which we have profit sharing here at Volk Packaging. So it all impacts. So that's one of the big issues. We try to make ourselves an easy place to do business with. We want our customers to enjoy doing business with, that we're relatively easy. The analogy that I always use with customers is we want to be like a baseball umpire or a softball umpire. If you go to a baseball game and the umpire does a good job, you can't even remember what he looked like on the way home.
Yeah. They shouldn't be part of the game,
They shouldn't
right?
be part of the game.
Yeah.
And our customers are very busy making their products. They don't want to be thinking about corrugated. That's our job. Let us think about the corrugated. So we want to be like an umpire in a good way. I went to a Red Sox game actually last night,
Yeah.
and in the third inning, there was a perfect pitch right down the middle. I double checked it on my Fubu on my phone, and it was a strike.
Yeah.
And the called it a ball. The Red Sox pitcher had a few unsavory words.
Oh yeah, because
Tossed through the game.
they know if they're pitching balls or
They
strikes.
know.
They know. Yeah.
And the umpire took off his helmet, and the Red Sox manager came out, and he got thrown out of the game.
Oof.
And I can tell you right now exactly what that umpire looked like,
Yeah.
because he screwed up.
Yeah.
And we want to be the umpire that they drive home at the end of the day and they didn't even think about corrugated once that day.
Nice.
So that's another goal, is be an easy company to work with. And I think the other thing that sets us apart is we have a really, really good design department, and they solve problems. And between them solving problems and the lack of bureaucracy, which we compete against a lot because our competitors, like I said, are big companies.
Yep.
So their salespeople can't necessarily make decisions. I encourage everybody here to make decisions. My goal is to be as irrelevant as possible.
Yep.
Let people make their own decisions. This isn't brain surgery. Nobody's going to die. You can't make a decision here that somebody's going to die. So make a decision. My sales reps will call me all the time, and they'll start asking me a question. And about halfway through the call, I'll say, "Is this a rhetorical question? Did you already tell the customer we're doing this?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, I did." And I said, "Okay." I kind of got that sense, but they've been with me long enough. They know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just want me to say it so that they kind of
Oh
field
no,
goal.
that's CYA, man.
Yeah,
They want to make sure they're covered in case there's a problem. Hey,
right.
I talked to
I
Derek.
talked to Derek.
I
He
don't know.
said it was okay.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, my management team, my sales reps, they know what I'm going to say. They know the company. They know the core values. They know what we're trying to do here, and they don't need me to make a decision, which is very nice because it allows me to not be in the office every single day if I don't want to be.
Right. Awesome. That's great. Um, so you wrote a book about baseball and the application to business. Let's start with what actually softball. What got you into softball? Why was that your sport? Why did you get involved?
Well, I had 3 daughters.
Ah, there you
So
go.
I have a son
Okay.
and 3 daughters. My son was not really into sports. And so my oldest daughter was 8, and she went to a softball clinic at the local middle school. And the high school coach, who also coached a local travel team, came up to me after the practice and said, "Hey, Mariah's a good little ball player." I said, "Yeah, she's all right." And he said, "Well, have you ever thought about coaching travel softball?" I said,
Nice.
"No." I said, "I have a boat and a lake house, and I have no plans on spending my summer on a softball field." And we still joke about it to this day because he looked me right in the eye and said, "Oh, it's not that big a commitment."
Yeah. We used to say that in Boy Scouts. We say
Oh,
it's like 2 hours a week.
yeah,
Like,
it's
which
not
is
that
the
big a
biggest
commitment.
lie going.
Yeah, before you knew it, I had a couple of daughters playing. My middle daughter started playing, and I was spending every single weekend on the softball field
Oh
for
man.
years,
Yeah.
and I don't regret 1 minute of it. It was
Yeah.
the best memories of my life. The camp, the lake will always be there, but the memories of spending those days on the softball field with my daughters was absolutely priceless. My older daughter, stopped playing in high school, later in high school. My middle daughter went on and played D1 softball, pitched at the D1 level,
Wow.
and just had just an amazing experience. So a couple of years ago, I had to give a speech for an award that I was being given, and I had no idea what I was going to talk about. And I was actually on a moose hunt.
Mm.
So I'm sitting out there in the woods, and I'm trying to think, what am I going to talk about? And I got like 3 days. I got to say something at this speech, and I came up with the idea to call my speech "Everything I Know About Business I Learned by Coaching Girls Softball."
Nice.
And
Yep.
so I had like 20 things that were going in my head of lessons that I taught the girls that I could easily take that same wording and put it to a business perspective. And I gave the speech. It went on YouTube. I got a lot of really positive responses. And I said, you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to write a book about this. I get to tell all my old softball stories,
Yeah.
and I get to tell business stories. I like telling stories. So it was a good fit. And I had really fun writing it, and actually just won the London Book Festival for best business book. So that's a very
Wow.
award I've won. I wrote another book about raising my son with autism a few years ago, and toured the country up until COVID killed our speaking career, and but never won an award. So that's my
Yeah.
first award. So that was
Cool.
kind of neat.
It would make a great TED Talk, by the way.
Yeah,
Might
yeah,
be worth thinking about,
maybe.
So when you and I read the book and I
Thank
think
you.
it's really interesting. Because you got a bunch of sort of things you learned and then applied them, but I don't think we have time to go through all of them. But what would be
Yeah,
the
there were a lot of
top? There
chapters.
were a lot of chapters. They were short though. It was great.
Yes.
Um, what would you say the top like 3 or 4 that you're like find yourself saying all the time in the business? Which are the
Yeah.
ones that are the real high hitters?
Yeah. So go for third, of course, is the title of the book, and the concept on that one is take some risks and make your competitors beat you. Don't just sit back and play it safe all the time. When
Mhm.
I coached, there's a lot of bunting and stealing in softball, a lot more than in baseball. The base pass is shorter. And I would always tell the girl, when you get to first base, I don't want you thinking the next girl is going to probably bunt, try to move you into scoring position. But I don't want you thinking about going to second. I want you thinking about going for third.
Hmm.
So as soon as she squares up to bunt, I want you running right past second, right to third. And if they can pick up the ball, throw you out at first, the first baseman can transition the ball, get it in her hand, throw it all the way across the field, make the play, and tag you out at third, fine.
They deserve it,
They
right?
deserve it,
Yeah.
right? But make them beat you. Go
Yeah.
for third.
Yeah.
So that's where I decided to name the book.
That's nice. That probably worked great at lower levels in particular, right? You
Oh,
get to
yeah.
college D1, they got a shot at making that play, but
Right. At U10,
no way.
no, make
No.
them make the throw. They're not going to. That's a lot of things. All you have to do is keep running.
Mhm.
Don't hesitate. And I would tell the girls, if you come around second and you hesitate and you get thrown out, that's on you.
Yeah.
If you come around second and you ran hard and they threw you out, I'll take responsibility for
Yeah.
that. I pushed you to run to third. You got thrown out, but as long as you don't hesitate, and the same thing in business,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not necessarily even making the best decision. It's about not hesitating. Make a decision. If you make a bad decision, I bought a terrible machine a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then I made another decision. Get rid of it, buy another machine. And now we're very happy. We have a wonderful machine that runs great. And you just got to make a decision. At some point, you got to do something, because
nice.
not making a decision is making a decision as well. It's making a decision to do nothing.
100%.
That rarely works out.
I have a friend who went through officer training school in the military.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, you're walking through the woods with your platoon or your squad, and a mortar comes down and it's 100 yards in front of you. He goes, what do? And some people go, they get frozen, right? And the answer is pick a direction and move everybody. We're going 100 yards right. Even if the next mortar lands on your position, that was a better decision than just sitting there waiting for them to figure out how to hit you, right?
Exactly.
So, same idea. Nice. So what else?
Yep.
I love that. Go for third. That's good.
Yep. So,
and by the way, you encouraging people to make decisions and so forth really is supportive of that idea. So that's great.
Yeah. And then there's some funny ones in there that are kind of, that people don't really think about. One of them is sometimes you have to put your star player in right field. Of course, nobody wants to play right field, and especially like little league level. That's where you generally put your least talented player.
I played a lot of right field, which is why I moved over to
soccer.
Every
right field.
No. I was that guy. I moved over to soccer. Fielders. Trust me.
But at the little league level, you're generally putting your weaker player in right field.
Yeah.
And so I had a star player one time on my little league game show up in the third inning because she had a soccer game, and it was little league season. And I don't mind girls playing multiple sports, but if it's little league season, I expect you to be there. If it's soccer season and I have a softball game, go to your soccer game. It's fall. You should go to your soccer game. But come April 1st,
you're mine.
That was always my rule.
Yeah.
And everything else takes second. And this girl chose to go to a soccer game when we had a little league game.
Yeah.
Well, if 3 other girls did that, I would have had to forfeit. And so she shows up in the third inning, and she was the best player on my team.
Yeah.
And she showed up, and I said, all right, well, go to right field. And she looked me right in the eye and she said, I don't play the outfield. And I said, you do when you show up in the third inning.
Woof. Okay.
And sometimes that superstar needs a little come to reality.
Yep.
And that you can't just do whatever you want. Now, that can sometimes contradict with another chapter I have, which is that fair and equal are not the same.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
You don't have to you can treat everybody fairly without treating them equally. And sometimes when I was a kid, we used to say, well, that's not fair, like all kids do. And my father would say, life's not fair. Not everybody gets treated like Ted Williams.
Right.
That's true. Not everybody is Ted Williams. And while sometimes you have to put your star player in right field, there are things that people that have been here or been with you for a long time earn a little more leeway.
Okay.
If I have an employee who's been here 27 years and he calls out sick a few days or says, I have some personal things I have to deal with, we're going to cut him a lot more slack than the guy that's been here for 3 months and all of a sudden doesn't show up for 3 days. Now, by the book, somebody may say, well, that's not fair. Everybody should be treated equally. Well, no. He's earned the right to take a few days off if he needs it. He's treated me well and showed loyalty for 20 plus years. And I'm going to repay that loyalty by, if he's going through a tough time, him or her, I'm going to treat him a little differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not unfair. It's unequal. I will admit it's unequal, but it's not unfair. So fair and equal, sometimes people like to think that those are synonyms, but they're not.
Yeah, I find my HR people get hung up on this sometimes. They go, "Hey, but
Yes,
the book
but
says," and I go,
yeah,
"I don't care what the book says." All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Oh, HR, and God bless, I love my HR team, but they well, we're setting a precedent. And my response is, yeah, the precedent is, if you've been here 28 years, you
Yeah.
get treated differently. That's the precedent. And and if that takes me to court, I will be happy to say that to a judge.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Nice.
so that's, that's another chapter. Another chapter that I like to talk about is, don't swing a bat that's too heavy. I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a 10-year-old show up at a little league game with a
Yeah.
23-ounce bat.
With a
And
major league bat, right?
yeah, and I said, this is a great bat for when you're a junior in high school, but you are not going to get any hits with this bat, because you can't. You're 10.
Yeah,
And I walked over to her parents and I said, it's a beautiful bat. Put it away till she's 16.
yeah.
And they looked at me like I ran over their dog, because they just spent a lot of money on the bat. And I said, look, it's Little League. I can't make her not use the bat. Like, if she wants to use the bat, by all means, I can't force you to do that. But she is not going to get any hits. There's no way she can swing that bat.
She can't get it around fast
She
enough.
can't get it around fast enough. And
Yeah.
at the U10 at 10 years old, it's all about bat speed.
Yeah.
And I use that same thing with my sales reps, that same story with my sales reps. Don't promise something we can't deliver. Don't swing a bat that's too heavy. And I had a sales rep, and he's still a sales rep with me, and he's my top sales rep. He's a great guy. He's a legend here. He's been here 35 years.
Wow.
But we were in an account years ago, and they showed us a box that we could not produce. And he looked the customer right in the eye and said, "That's right up our alley."
Oh.
And I'm thinking, what alley are you in? Because I've never even been in this alley.
Yeah.
And he was swinging a bat that was too heavy. So you can't be swinging bats that are too heavy. So those are the kinds of things that I like to take stories from my softball days and then talk about them in a business setting.
I love it. That really great ways to frame the problem. And there's a book about it called Made to Stick, but people remember stories.
Yes.
So when you frame it as a little story like that, they go, yeah, I guess I am doing that. And they'll remember it, as opposed to, why'd you promise something we couldn't do? Blah, 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 blah. Now you swung a bat too heavy, and now
Yeah.
they get it. Right. So that's great.
Yeah.
So, one of the challenges, in a multi-generational family business is, next generation, that, you think legacy, it's not a business. It's family and business are interweaved pretty tightly usually.
Exactly.
How are you thinking about potential transition?
I think about it a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I'm 0 for 3 right now.
Ruh-roh.
So I have 4 kids, and none of them are interested in the business.
Okay.
They all have gone on to other things, and that's fine. And my youngest she's going to be a senior in college. Right now, she's not interested, and she may never be. But she would be terrific. She's got just incredible business sense. She's 21 years old, and she's already started 3 businesses. So she's very entrepreneurial, and she would be great. I've talked to a nephew. I've looked into ESOP. That's an option. I think we have a really great culture here that would fit in really well with an employee-owned structure. And I've kicked that around. I almost pulled the trigger on it a couple of years ago, but it is debt. So I had to weigh the fact that I needed some new machinery over doing an ESOP. And I felt like I could do a better ESOP. I could build a better company for my employees to eventually own if I had better equipment.
Yeah.
So what am I giving them? If I give them an ESOP and I put the company in debt by doing an ESOP, and now we can't go out and buy new machinery, and we needed new machinery.
Yeah.
Because the way I described it to my plant and my office people is we're sending our sales reps every day out in the field to play Roger Federer with a wooden racket.
Yeah. Right.
And that's not fair. And eventually you're going to start lose sales reps because they realize Derek's not putting any money into this company. I can't be competitive. I can't, if I go over to XYZ company, they just bought a new flexo and a new die cutter, and I can sell much better with them. Yeah. And I don't want to lose sales reps. They're too important.
Yep.
That's the only way you can really grow a company is having sales reps. So I invested in a couple of new machines, which asked me in 10 years, and I'll tell you whether it was a good decision or not.
Yeah, right.
But I'm pretty confident it was, and that it'll pay dividends in the long run. And so I'm looking at that option as well. And
got it.
And obviously selling is always an option, but that's not my favorite option.
Got it. I mean, some people park it with a professional CEO for a while.
Yeah.
You know, they bring somebody in, or maybe somebody in the organization could be promoted. And, you know, while we wait for the next generation to come up and maybe be ready, you know, somebody else runs it for a while. Like, you still own it. You just don't run it the way you do. And then that changes in the next generation, right?
Yeah. And God willing, I have, you know, 2 granddaughters already. Right? And
yeah.
So who knows? And maybe it's a son-in-law.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, right now, you know, I'm focused on just getting the business as healthy as possible. You know, it's interesting. We were setting goals a couple of years ago. We're on EOS, which is entrepreneurial operating system that we kind of structure our business by. And we're setting goals, and we set a number goal because we hadn't really set a 10-year goal. We'd never set a 10-year goal before, so we didn't really know what we were doing. So sales seemed like the most easy way to do it. Like, okay, let's just pick a sales number and say that's our 10-year goal. And I was looking at it the other day, and I was thinking, do I really even want that? Like, that's a big number. It's going to require 3 shifts.
Yep.
Lots of additional people, lots of additional headaches. Is that really what I want? Like, is that what any of us want?
Yep.
I said, and so we have a meeting on July 1st, and I'm going to get my leadership team together. It's an all-day offsite quarterly meeting that we have, and we're going to talk about that because, you know, my vision that I set for the company, our vision statement is about being a good place to work, being a good community citizen, good corporate citizen, having someplace that customers enjoy doing business with, and making some money.
Yeah.
That's really the goal, not some arbitrary figure. I could go hit an arbitrary figure tomorrow. I just go out and pick up a bunch of business that I can't make money on.
Yep.
And we can all pat ourselves on the back that we hit a sales goal.
Yeah.
We're not making any money. We're running every Saturday because we can't keep up, and everybody's miserable. We can't do PM on the machine. My maintenance people are coming in on Sundays to try to do PM because we're running 6 days a week. Is that what anybody wants? That doesn't sound like fun.
Interesting. You know, there's a great book on this idea called Bull Burlingham wrote it, called Little Giants.
Oh, okay.
It's worth reading. It talks about I
will do that.
Choosing not to be good, but choosing to be great at something.
Yeah.
And kind of owning a chunk, but that's not a number. It's a you know, the best bike shop in Greenwich, Connecticut, or the whatever, you know. It's so that may be worth looking at as you head into that meeting.
I will. I like to read books. I have way too many on my nightstand.
Yeah.
I made a commitment about a year ago. I said, I am not buying any more books until I read all the books that are sitting on my nightstand.
Yeah.
And then I go to an airport and I have time to kill, and I'm in a bookstore and I'm like, this one looks really good. Or I hear a podcast and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just buy this one.
Yeah, there you go.
So I have.
I've tried to cut the habit a couple times. It doesn't work.
I just keep buying more and more books that I don't have time to read.
Yeah, there's a joke that goes, at some point you own enough books that you can never read them before you die.
Yeah.
You know. So last kind of question. What do you think is the constraint to? Well, I guess you got to be clear on where you're trying to bring the business, and then what's stopping you from getting there then rolls in. So you got to get clear. This July meeting is super important for you guys.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, what the most important thing to me is that we have a business, like I said, that customers enjoy doing business with. I mean, that's the most important thing. I tell my employees all the time, I don't pay your bills. You think I'm paying your salary, I'm paying your paycheck. I don't pay your paycheck. The customer pays your paycheck. I just take their money, put it in my bank account, and then give it to you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any money to give you if it doesn't come from the customer. It all comes from the customer. That's why being customer centric is our number one core value. Because without the customer, we don't have anything. I can't pay any of the bills. I can't pay my vendors. I can't pay you. I can't pay anybody. Can't pay myself. So I want a place where customers enjoy doing business. And I want a place where people wake up in the morning and they enjoy coming to work and they feel like they left at the end of the day and they accomplished something. Yeah. And Simon Sinek talks about the why, right? And we talk about that here because we're making boxes. It's not terribly glamorous.
Yeah.
I know to most of your audience, they think it's extremely glamorous.
I know, right?
And ritzy, and it, it's what all everybody wants to do. But it's a grind. You're making thousands and thousands of boxes every day, but we're making boxes for medical products. We make boxes for food. We make boxes for all kinds of products that people need to live their lives. 95% of everything in the world goes in a corrugated box at some point. And so if we're not making those boxes, then our customers aren't being able to take care of their customers and take care of people. And that's the why. Yeah. And that all comes down to having a reason to come into work and enjoy what you do, and be able to give back to the community. We have a heroes wall out here where we honor veterans, and we try to do things that matter, because I always tell people that if I die and my obituary says he made a lot of boxes, I failed. Yeah. Like, awesome. if my legacy is that I made a lot of boxes, that would be very disappointing.
That'd be sad.
That's all I'm remembered for.
Well, and I think if you take care of customers and take care of employees, you end up making money, despite like you just said, it's an outcome, not a target, right? It just happens because you did things right. Hey, if people want to get a hold of you, let's say they have a need for packaging and it seems like you'd be a place they'd want to work with, how would they get a hold of you, Derek?
Yeah, easiest place, you can go right on our website, volkboxes.com. And we're all over social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can hit me up on any of those. If you Google Derek Volk, trust me,
we'll find you.
Not hard to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time with us today. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And for those listening, thanks for joining us on the CEO Project Podcast. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening to the CEO Project Podcast. We'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe to get all the future episodes and check out our website, www.theceoproject.com.